2 days ago, my coach and I, Antoine, went through one last dry run of the talk that I was going to share with you tonight. You might have noticed that I said was. So right now, he's probably already squirming in his seat a little bit, wondering what is going on. The story I was going to share with you, and that I will share with you eventually, is my story. And my story, like life, changes. So what changed? What happened? The story that I was going to share with you was a voyage of what I had known for so many years to where I was a year ago and to where I hope to go in the future. But then, last night, a call I could not have prepared for, a call I did not expect, came onto my phone. Another man in my circle had taken his life, died by suicide just 2 days earlier. I was going to open my talk with a visualization of a moment that happened for me almost a year ago, the first time that I felt truly touched by hope and opportunity. That opening somehow didn't seem like it was going to work tonight for me. That moment a year ago saw me unleashing pain and anguish, loneliness and sadness onto the page. The words flowed as freely as my tears, while another man sat next to me, holding my shoulders up. He had put his pen down. He told me to continue, to keep writing, to finish my story. This was the first time that I had done that in my life. And yet still, with the news that came to me last night, that didn't seem like the right thing to do. But there is a message that I want to share tonight, and it is one of hope, and it is one of opportunity. But in order to have you understand where I am today and how I feel about the future, it's very important for you to know what I am not. I am not a good Christian. I'm not a good Buddhist, and I'm not a good meditator. I'm not a good entrepreneur. That's why I'm an intrapreneur in the intro. And I'm also not a good athlete. How do I know these things? Quite simple, actually. The metrics don't lie. Anytime I tried to live into one of these roles, I measured myself up against the metrics that society had put before me, and I just didn't measure up. As a young boy, I spent a lot of time in the church. I was an altar boy and even had dreams of becoming perhaps one day a priest. The stories they told, the way they engaged and inspired people from behind the pulpit drew me in. As I got older, I started to ask questions about what we believed in, about the faith. And each time I asked a question, I was left wanting. I continued to press. I was a little stubborn. My mother had always said I'd be a good lawyer. Still, the answers never came. And so, after a long voyage, I walked away from the church. Losing a community that I'd spent so much time around was one thing. But what was even more difficult was feeling as if I had no one to turn to share what I was feeling, to talk about what this experience and leaving the church meant to me. So I did what I was taught to do, and I suppressed how I felt. Later, I came to Buddhism and meditation. The image of the monk almost floating off of his cushion with a piece of idyllic happiness on his face was something that resonated with me. So I bought the books, I joined the groups, and I meditated. After what felt like years but was really only just a couple of months, my butt was still stuck to the floor, my mind was still racing, and my anxiety levels were through the roof. Clearly, I wasn't succeeding. So again, I had one decision to make. And so I walked away. And again, I felt as if there was no one that I could turn to, no one that I could talk about how I was feeling about this disconnection. And so once again, I suppressed. I really shouldn't have worried, though, because the answer was about to be revealed to me. Entrepreneurship. In that time, it was the answer to everything. If you wanted money and materialistic things, if you wanted the house, the cars, the women, the party, the good life, all would be laid at your feet if you became an entrepreneur. So I jumped in with both of mine. I got the car, I got the nice place to live, I had the nice restaurants to go to. I was living the good life. Something they don't tell you is that you can't just live the life of an entrepreneur without actually building a good business. Minor detail that I overlooked. And so when I began to peel beneath the surface and look at what I had done underneath, it was very clear that once again, I was not hitting the metrics. What I was doing was not sustainable. And before it got too ugly, I walked away. And once again, this time with a deep sense of shame, I suppressed. At this time, I was about to embark on what was, I believe, the two most important roles that any man can be asked of in society, that of husband and father. The problem, of course, was that I had not taken any time yet to reflect on what it was that wasn't working. What was missing every time I tried to step into one of these roles? So in 2002, I got on a plane and moved to Japan. No, not for a mail-order bride. But instead, I wanted to be closer to meditation and Buddhism. This practice, these beliefs still resonated with me, and so I figured go big or go home. After 4 years in Japan, I was no closer to enlightenment, but more importantly, I had fallen in love with a beautiful woman who had 2 fantastic girls, and overnight, I became a father and a husband. We moved back to Montreal, and a couple of years later, we had a 3rd daughter. The West is filled with powerful images of what it means to be a father and a husband. 2 of the most important for me that resonated from my time growing up was if you brought home the bacon and you put a roof over their heads, good job. That was pretty much all that was asked of us. And if things started to go a little difficult, were a little rough, you started to stumble, you needed, go work harder. Go get more. That was always the answer. I wore the number of hours that I spent at the office like a badge of honor, as so many of us do. For almost a decade, I didn't realize that what I was doing wasn't building a strong family or a strong home. I was building walls between myself and the people who were most important to me. When I started to look at the metrics, when I started to take a look at the relationships that I had in my home, it was clear, once again, that I wasn't succeeding. The most important roles that I could play on my time on earth, and I wasn't succeeding. This time, I wasn't ready to give up. I thought, I need to take a step back. Before I think about father and husband, let me try to figure out what it actually means first to be a man. And so I started on this voyage. And here I started to recover and regain some of the power and strength that we feel men should have. Connections back to tens of thousands of years of evolution. The problem, of course, once again, is that I had never taken a look inside, and the metrics were set outside of me. And so once again, when I started to look up at the materialistic, the financial, the sexual, and all of the other goals that this mission had, I wasn't measuring up. Once again, I was failing. But what happened? Here I am a year later, and I'm standing in front of you telling this story. Surely this can't be how it happens. This isn't the ending. Well, unlike so many others, I was given 3 wonderful gifts that have made all the difference. The first was that day, a year ago, just before the moment when I was pouring all of that pain into the journal. I had the opportunity to sit with a man. His name is Ryan. And for the first time in my life, I felt as if somebody was actually seeing me. He invited me in to share all of my pain, to live into myself. His sole intention at that moment was to be there for me. It was an incredible gift. Earlier this year, the second gift was given to me. When I came across a coach, Brian. Brian's foundational teaching is in the Tao Te Ching. The Tao is rich with the metaphor of the river, of its power instead of force, of its allowing instead of fighting. But the most powerful image that came to me was the idea that the river does not try to be like other rivers. The river just is, and that's how it achieves its ultimate purpose. Through these and a series of powerful conversations with hundreds of men, literally hundreds of men who were suffering and feeling the same as I did, I came to the third gift. And it's probably the most important one of all. Instead of asking myself, what does it mean to be a father, a husband, a good entrepreneur, a successful athlete, instead of answering any of these questions where the metrics lived outside of me, I needed to start with something much more simple. What does it mean to be me? What does it mean to be Paul? And then to allow myself to live into those roles as I want to show up in them, not as what anybody else tells me they should be. These three gifts have allowed me to engage with men in a completely different way. I live with something that is called sawubona. Sawubona is an African greeting. It means I see you and I am here for you to be seen. There is no more beautiful word in any language as far as I'm concerned. Today, I still make mistakes. I still slip up. But I catch myself sooner and I forgive myself. I'm more gentle with the person that I am. I feel hope. I feel opportunity, despite the news I received last night. So how do we make this more systemic? How can we invite more of our boys and more of our men to have the same kind of understanding, the same kind of uncovering that I was able to have? It's a complicated question, and there's no panacea. But I think that there are two things that we can start with. For our boys, we need to encourage our schools to work with them to understand and engage with their emotions, to embrace the people that they find within themselves, and to embrace others as well. Allow them to live into themselves as they wish to be. Celebrate it. For our men, we need to create spaces all over the world where they feel safe, not to come together to talk about the latest hockey score or muscle car or their latest conquests. We do that already. We're very good at it too. We need to talk about our pain. We need to share our joys. We need to celebrate our victories. And we need to see each other and invite each other to be seen. As the father of 3 girls, I am so inspired by everything that I see happening for our girls and women today. I will support that mission for as long as I can because I want them to have every single opportunity that they deserve to succeed. No one should decide what happens to them as far as their future goes. But we cannot forget our boys, and we cannot forget our men. It is only by standing shoulder to shoulder that we can create families that we are proud to be a part of, communities that we want to live in, and have a future that we can all be proud of. We need to see and be seen. And so to each of you tonight, sawubona. Thank you.